66 million years ago, on an ordinary afternoon, the sky over what is now Mexico tore open. A rock the size of a city, moving faster than a bullet, slammed into the earth with the force of 10 billion atomic bombs. In an instant, the age of the dinosaurs was over. They had ruled this planet for 165 million years. We have ruled it for about 300,000. And the only reason you exist, the only reason your species ever got the chance to crawl out of the shadows, is that one rock on one afternoon happened to hit at exactly the wrong angle. But what if it missed? Not by much. Just a few minutes. The Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour. If that asteroid had arrived just a little earlier or a little later, it would have hit deep ocean instead of shallow coastal rock. The dust that blocked out the sun for years might never have risen. The dinosaurs might have simply looked up, watched a bright streak cross the sky, and gone back to their afternoon. And if they had, you would not be here. So let's follow that streak. Let's watch it miss, and let's see what crawls out of the next 66 million years. The first thing you need to understand is that the dinosaurs were not failures waiting to die. That's the story we tell ourselves. Big, dumb, slow lizards that had it coming. But it's wrong. By the time that asteroid arrived, dinosaurs were the most successful large animals the planet had ever produced. They had feathers. They had complex social behavior. Some hunted in packs. Some cared for their young for years. And one group in particular had been quietly getting smarter for millions of years. The small, fast, sharp-eyed predators. The ones with grasping hands and binocular vision. The ones that looked, if you squint across a deep time, a little bit like a blueprint for something that hadn't happened yet. In our timeline, those predators died with everything else. But in the timeline where the rock misses, they keep going. And here is where it gets strange, because a paleontologist once asked a question that haunts this entire subject. If those small, smart, two-legged predators had kept evolving for another 66 million years, the same amount of time it took a tiny shrew-like mammal to become you, what would they have become? The answer he sketched out was deeply unsettling. He imagined a creature standing upright, roughly your height, large brain housed in a domed skull, 3 fingers on each hand, capable of gripping tools, forward-facing eyes, a creature intelligent enough to build, to plan, to wonder. He called it the Dinosauroid, and it would not have been a monster. It would have been a person, just not a human one. Sit with that for a moment. In the world where the rock misses, the dominant intelligent species on Earth is not a primate. It's a reptile. It builds cities, but it does not look like you. It has language, but you could never speak it. It looks up at the same stars you look up at and asks the same questions you ask. Why am I here? What is all this? Am I alone? And it has no idea that somewhere in its deep evolutionary past, a small furry creature was waiting in the dark for its chance. A chance that, in this world, never came. Because that's the part nobody likes to think about. In the timeline where the dinosaurs live, the mammals never rise. Your ancestors, well, those tiny, nocturnal, insect-eating creatures scurrying between the feet of giants, stay exactly where they are. Small. Hidden. Afraid. For 165 million years, mammals existed alongside the dinosaurs and never grew larger than a house cat. Not because they couldn't, because they weren't allowed to. Every ecological role that mattered, every large predator, every large herbivore, every position at the top of the food chain, was already filled by something with scales and a head full of teeth. The mammals didn't stay small because they were inferior. They stayed small because the world was already taken. The asteroid didn't just kill the dinosaurs, it unlocked a door that had been bolted shut for over 100 million years. And your entire lineage, every primate, every ape, every human who has ever lived, loved, built, or dreamed, came pouring through that door in the few million years after it opened. You are not the inevitable endpoint of evolution. You are what happened when the giants finally got out of the way. Now think about what that means for the dinosaur world. Mammals there might still exist, scurrying in the undergrowth, exactly as they did 66 million years ago. Small, clever, maybe, but irrelevant. The dinosauroid civilization, if it noticed them at all, might keep them as curiosities. The way you might keep a hamster, imagine that. An intelligent reptile, a scientist of its own kind, holding a small warm mammal in its 3-fingered hand, studying it, wondering if there's anything going on behind those frightened little eyes, never once suspecting that in another version of reality, that creature's descendants would be the ones holding the scalpel. But here's the twist that makes this more than just a fun thought experiment. The Dinosauroid might never have happened at all, because intelligence, real, tool-building, city-making intelligence, is not the obvious destination of evolution that we like to believe it is. We assume that given enough time, life trends towards smarter and smarter creatures, until eventually something wakes up and starts asking questions. But the fossil record says otherwise. In 3.5 billion years of life on Earth, high intelligence has emerged exactly once, one time. Out of billions of species, the dinosaurs had 165 million years and never produced a single creature that built a fire or drew a picture. Maybe they would have, given another 66 million years. Or maybe intelligence like yours is not a destination at all. Maybe it's a freak accident, a fluke that needed a very specific catastrophe, a very specific door, and a very specific small, terrified, curious creature to walk through it at exactly the right moment. Which brings us back to the rock. The thing about that asteroid is that it wasn't a punishment and it wasn't a mistake. It was a coin flip. Heads, the dinosaurs keep the planet, and maybe, eventually, something reptilian learns to think. Tails, the mammals get their chance and something furry does instead. The coin landed tails, and every single thing you have ever known, every word in every language, every song, every war, every act of love, every face you have ever seen exists on the tail side of a coin that was flipped 66 million years ago by a rock that almost missed. Look up tonight. The same sky that dinosaurs watched for 165 million years is still up there. The same stars. And somewhere in the math of all those possible worlds, there is a version of Earth where something else is looking up at those exact stars right now. Something with scales and a domed skull and 3 fingers and questions it cannot answer. It never knew you were possible, and you almost never knew it was. The dinosaurs didn't die because they were weak. They died because the universe flipped a coin, and you are the side that came up. Every time you wonder why you're here, remember you almost weren't. A rock the size of a city had to fall out of the sky at exactly the right angle, on exactly the right afternoon, 66 million years ago, just so that one day you could exist long enough to ask the question. That's not a tragedy. That's the most extraordinary stroke of luck in the history of the world. And it's the reason you're here right now, thinking about a world that never was.